Welcome to our Life of a Church Planter live stream. Thank you, Kairos Network, for supporting this today. I'm really excited because we're 9 to 10 weeks in, depending on where you're at, to this whole COVID-19 crisis, to this whole, I'm in New Jersey. We're still totally locked down, quarantined. We don't even know on the horizon when we're coming out of that. And so I know that overnight, we all became televangelists with major video ministries, right? And so I'm really excited, not because we're quarantined, but because we get the opportunity now that we're this far in. And most of us, the shock has kind of worn off. For those that were trying to get video going, you've gotten something up and running. And so I'm really excited because now we get the opportunity to say, hey, how can we take the next step forward? And how can we really start to improve our live stream and media experience? And I think the big assumption when we're doing that is simply this: I can't afford to do that. Only big churches can afford really great production quality and live streaming. And so that's why I'm so excited to introduce you to Tanner Boley and Trey Sansom. Tanner is the founder of Fox Hollow Video. Tanner has run major TED Talk events, done video production around the world, and he's also worked in the local church. So he's not just somebody that does video production. He's somebody that's in the local church and understands those ministry constraints and needs. Trey Sansom used to be a touring musician. In fact, fun fact, his band Left Foot Down actually opened up for the Allman Brothers on tour. And I met Trey when we were in a church plant in Knoxville, Tennessee. Trey became our worship leader. He's since gone to seminary, and now he's planting a church in Houston, Texas. And there is no greater expert when it comes to audio than Trey. But what I also love in Trey's experience that you're going to get to hear is Trey, as a church planter, is setting video up from the ground up and has self-admittedly avoided that for as long as possible, but now is seeing the need to be able to do video. So guys, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to join us. And I just wanted to really quick open up with the question, why is video going to continue to be important even as we step back into a live worship experience?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'll grab this one real quick. So your online ministry, I forget who exactly it was, but they said the other day, like, the front door to your church is no longer the actual physical front door to your church, but it's actually your online ministry. It's your web presence, your website, it's your live stream of your sermon and stuff like that. This isn't something that is just during this pandemic. Like, this is a full-blown ministry that, when done right, can be hitting thousands of people a week, And what's cool about it is that it doesn't just go out to those thousands of people. Like, it goes out to those thousands of people and then it gets shared and reshared and reshared. And so it's a viable ministry, not just a tool like a website or your church bulletin or something. This is a full-blown ministry, and it's going to be here for the foreseeable future as just time and technology changes. It's something that we begin to embrace as a ministry for the church.
Well, I think too, Tanner, you were sharing in a video, you're putting together a video training, and I think you said in there 89% of searches online are video-based searches.
Yeah, so right now that was done by a company called Tech Jury. And I believe I may have the stat, it's either 89 or 82% of online searches right now are video-based. They are, something on YouTube or Vimeo or some sort of video platform, or it's consuming some sort of live stream similar to this. And so a huge percentage of internet is consumption of video. And this is a spot where now the church, for like a really low cost, can step in and be part of that. A number of years ago, I got a chance to go to a Christian conference, and the vice president of marketing for Paramount was there. And it was super cool. He stepped up and he said, the entertainment industry, like, Hollywood and Portland, places that are putting out films, like, is nothing but supply and demand. So when the supply is high for all kinds of weird videos and stuff like that, that's what they're going to produce. But if that shifts and it's for like, things that are a bit more wholesome, or even Christian-based like networking and stuff like that, we can actually shift that supply and demand and make a difference. And so if we're putting out content online as the church, which the church right now is full-blown breaking the internet with online services and things like that. Like it's breaking the internet. It's nuts. But man, we can put out that content to be consumed right now.
Man, I love that. And then Trey, you're planting a church. You've got 1,001 things that you're trying to do, especially in this season, as you work with your partner church, as you look at planting your own church. Why, as somebody who avoided wanting to step into video, has video become such a high priority for you in your life right now?
Well, there's a couple of reasons, but the biggest reason is that, my personal mission is to connect the disconnected to a growing and reproducing relationship with Jesus Christ and one another. And since this happened and we've had to go online, I've been going to church with my family online. And one of my partner churches, there's lots of different platforms, but one of my partner churches, they use Facebook Live as their primary way. And when you're doing that, if you share it, you can start a watch party. And as the host of a watch party, I can see who's clicking on and who's engaging. And every week since this has happened, one of my friends that I know is disconnected from the church, that I know hasn't darkened the door of a church in many years, who I've invited to church and hasn't come, has engaged with the video content and online church. And so the reach that we have as the church with the internet is immense. The other is that as I've been planting, my, I guess, perspective on what constitutes church has changed because of the culture that we have around us right now. And it was already starting to shift before this, but this just was the catalyst that made everything really transform really quickly. But I'm planting in an area that's fast growing and everything's new. So there aren't any spaces that are built that you can rent out as a church planter. And then, in full disclosure, Matt Peoples is my church plant coach. And one day he asked, if there's anything you want to be at the center of a new church, the DNA, the non-negotiable thing that you want to do, what is it? And I come from a background of being a worship leader in the large worship gathering and being able to put together a good, engaging service and people come and stuff like that. But when I thought about it, what is the goal? And it's to make disciples who make disciples. And so relational discipleship. And that's going to happen. That can't happen to its fullest extent on an hour on Sunday. That has to happen in smaller, more intimate relational environments. And so that combined with not having any large spaces to rent, I decided, well, I guess we're going to start meeting in homes and doing it in small groups. And because of that, we're going to have video content so that we can all be on the same page. And now with the pandemic, everything just kind of got, instantly, the whole world instantly changed. And I thought that was going to be a hard sell before, but now everybody can kind of see how church can work that way.
No, I think that's awesome. The question's going to pop up and then we're going to dig into the details I know you're looking for. The question's going to pop up. Well, this is great. And maybe I'm convinced, but how do I convince somebody around me that this is a worthwhile cost? And I think you're hearing it right here. I think if you're talking to leadership at a church, you're talking to a senior pastor, you're just trying to convince people, hey, can you support this? Number one, realize this is where people are viewing you for the first time. We had a couple, I'm going to do a baptism in 2 weeks. And this baptism is happening from a couple that connected with us during this quarantine season, totally and completely online. And they cited two things. They cited what we were doing with kids that they really liked and that kids could be a part of the regular worship experience. But the other thing they cited was all the videos we've been putting out on YouTube, whether it's little encouragements, whether it's the YouTube ads we put out, all that video content they were able to engage with so they could know who we are and get a better understanding of what it is we're about. So, you know, this is an opportunity to connect people literally to Jesus. And so, you know, using that opportunity is a huge thing. So we're going to dive into some of the nuts and bolts, but I'm going to highlight for you guys, we've got a Q&A. And in fact, Ebenezer shot out a Q&A for us. He said, I'm using Zoom and I can stream on FB, but when I try to share my screen to access certain docs or websites, the live stream on Facebook cuts off. And I think, hey, great question. I know there's a lot of copyright issues. We won't be digging into that as much, but I will tell you, Facebook has a less sophisticated copyright system. And so Facebook just kind of errs on the side of the copyright. So if they hear music that might be copyright protected, if they see stuff that might be copyright protected, Facebook will just cut it off. Whereas YouTube tends to be more sophisticated. And so YouTube, if you put things in your YouTube description, like, you know, for teaching or worship purposes only, descriptions you can find on Google, they'll tend to allow you to use that content a little bit more and not kind of be cut off. So I would consider that. And then also, as you're thinking about video, and we're talking about the nuts and bolts, think about the platforms you're releasing it on. And, you know, realize if you have a sign-in platform, you create a limit. So if somebody doesn't have a Facebook account, they can't use Facebook. If somebody, YouTube tends to be more open. So that's a great platform to stream to. But think about that. Stream to multiple platforms. You can usually do that through something like Restream and stuff like that. But consider, you know, am I creating a gate somebody can't walk through? Or am I opening up as many gates as possible as we talk about this? So, fellas, I'm ready to dig into some of your expertise here. When it comes to video, what are the two basic elements, probably three basic elements we need to keep in mind when we're talking about shooting video for live or pre-record?
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, and I'll kind of kick it off here on the video side of things. You know, you want to have clean video. You want to have a you know, you don't want things blurry. You want things to be in focus. You want your lighting to be decent. You don't want weird shadows and things like that. And it may seem a little bit daunting, but it's something that you try and you tweak. You know, you set up your camera and then you look at something through it and then you tweak it a little. But one of the big things is that you just don't want your video being distracting. You don't want a distracting background behind you. You don't want to be totally in the dark or something like that. And you don't want weird shadows. As you know, I'm probably not doing the best job as I can right now. But you just don't want things super distracting. So on the video front, like, keep it simple and then build onto it. If you have to start with an iPhone, then start with an iPhone. This thing here is incredible. And it's like, you know, you've got a whole production studio in your pocket, you know, start there, but have good, clean videos. Start with something good and then build up. Don't go right out of the gate with some massive system that you have no clue how to use. Start with something simple and then build up.
That's huge.
Yeah, I like that, Tanner. We always said shoot bullets before cannonballs.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You know, you've got the iPhone. It's got a great camera with a couple of apps. You can create phenomenal content. But we also don't want to forget the audio. Audio is huge. Think about a time when you have watched a video and it's got a big buzz. Regardless of how amazing the footage looks, if it's buzzing, I'm not listening. I'm not gonna sit through that. And so, you know, the audio is really important. Or you've got, you know, a band and it's not mixed well. And it sounds, you know, the vocals are too loud, or you can't hear the vocals, or it's all guitar. That's gonna be distracting, and that's gonna like literally hurt people's ears, and they're gonna shut it off. They're just not gonna do it. And so, taking some time to figure out your audio is definitely time well spent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of our goals here, we've talked lighting, we've talked backgrounds, we've talked audio. Those are three keys when you're talking about video production. And I want you to understand the very first thing we talked about is just the environment you're shooting in. That's a no cost change that you can easily make to upgrade your live stream, which is just what's behind me. Right now I know that what I'm doing looks sophisticated. It's just a flat screen TV with a USB drive in there and a picture, and I jumped on the video settings on Zoom and made sure I wasn't mirroring anymore so that you could actually read what was behind me, and I dimmed the screen down. I mean, super simple. Lighting, I've got, and in fact, Trey, we're going to share this in a link, but I've got just some simple soft boxes up here that you can get. I bought it really cheaply in a pack when I first got to Bethlehem, and I just set those up in my office and turned the other lights down so it would give me a clearer picture. And so you could easily do everything we're talking about for, free, or if you want to add lighting, a couple $100. There's also a great ring light. It's called the UB size ring light. And it's one of those things under $100, not quite under $100. Let me give you the exact price. So I'm looking at it on Amazon right now, and it looks like it sells for, we can get a whole lighting kit for $229. So you could probably get this for around $100, the ring light. And I got a buddy, Ben, that's what he uses. And it clips, the phone clips in, and then he puts the little ring light around it. And all of a sudden, boom, you've got studio quality video. And it includes the tripod for a couple bucks that you could easily set up just right in front of you in your current sanctuary space, in your house, wherever that may be. And then Trey, you were sharing a really cool thing that you bought. Let's just start with, if you're just going phone setup, Trey, you found a couple cool things.
Yeah. Well, before the phone though, just while I'm thinking about it, if you are using a webcam, you can get great footage on a webcam too. What I'm using right now is a Logitech webcam, but the key is there's an app. It's called Webcam Settings, and it's $8, and you can change all kinds of stuff, and it really makes a difference. You can zoom in, you can change your brightness and exposure and stuff like that, and it makes a huge difference. But on the phone side of things, I ended up getting, this is called a gimbal, and basically it's a stabilizer for your phone, and when it's turned on, it makes everything nice and smooth. You can pan with it. You can do all kinds of really cool stuff with it. But also, if you can do this with a tripod if you're just stationary, but this also makes a great tripod. Yeah. A $10 little thing. But what's cool about this is it automatically levels everything out. And and I got this on a whim because I got a coupon and I got it 50% off. But I've learned to love it very much. And because you can, speaking of the audio side, you can add a microphone. So underneath this fuzzy thing is a microphone, and this microphone it costs $40, and it plugs into the phone, and it just creates phenomenal audio right out of the bat. It's right, pretty much at the right level. It sounds great. It picks up everything, and it's phenomenal. Now you'll have to get some different accessories and stuff to mount it and things like that. But right now in this rig, I've got, if I paid full price for the gimbal, I would have $100 in the gimbal, $40 in the mic, $7 in an adapter, and $13 in a counterweight. So, you're talking less than $200. And, and there's an app. You really, really need to get Filmic Pro. The Apple built-in app is it's okay, but it's not going to cut it. Filmic Pro, you're going to spend a little bit of money on it. But man, it gives you so much control, and you can make professional looking stuff. People are shooting full length feature films with Filmic Pro right now.
And Trey, we've got a panelist that asked, is that Rod mic?
No, it's not the Rode. This is a Movo.
Oh, okay.
And I was doing research, and the Movo every bit is comparable. It's kind of designed after the Rode. Here, I'll bring it in a little bit. It's designed to be like the Rode, but I was watching some YouTube videos about it and comparing, and a lot of the consensus is that this sounds better than the Rode. And it's $20 cheaper than the Rode. And with the Rode, to hook into a iPhone, you have to buy a separate cable, and that's another $20. So all in all, it's $40 less than the Rode. So half price of the Rode, and it sounds as good, if not better. Now the thing with the iPhone is you've only got the lightning connector, so you have to use this little dongle that came with your phone to hook up headphones to lightning adapter. And then because I didn't like the stress that it put on it, I bought another little T that makes it to where I can hook up the headphone adapter there, the microphone there, and then I can also charge at the same time. So and that was like $7.
James Gray asked a really good question here as we're kind of talking the phone route. And I'd love to pick your guys' brain on this. James says, love using the phone, but looking to record from high and further away once we have members back in the church. Should I go camcorder or DSLR? Or is there some kind of attachment that you could stick on a phone that would work?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. So since we're doing our tech and stuff like that, this is a really cool thing put out by Rode. And it's a lightning on one end, and it's 3 mini jacks on the other. So you can actually run 2 wireless mics into this, come out of your receiver into, input 1, input 2. And then it also has a spot for headphones so that you can monitor. So that's something you can, just plug it right into the bottom of your phone. And now you've got 2, my phone just recognized it there. So now you've got 2 mic sources that you can bring in and monitor. So that's something that you can use to get a little bit further away. I use it a lot of times. I'll plug my Sony wireless labs into, the receiver. It gets plugged into these, and I'll use that a lot of times if I've got my subjects, socially distanced 6 feet away. That way I can kind of get them away a little bit further out, and I can still record with a phone.
And then on the video question, Tanner, correct me if I'm wrong, the farther back we're trying to shoot to maintain clarity, we're probably going to end up spending a little bit more on the end of the camera. Is that correct?
You are. DSLR cameras are phenomenal. And when we say DSLR, you're talking about something kind of more along this line here. So this is a Canon A6500, and it looks like your regular, camera that you would take photos with. So back around 2010 or so, we realized, man, these guys actually shoot killer video. It started with the Nikon, the D90 back in the day. And then Canon jumped on board with some of their own stuff, and it's just kind of exploded. So these DSLR style cameras get just these amazing images, and you can do some really cinematic stuff with it where you kind of blur out the background of your, that your subject is standing in front of it. We call it depth of field, where you separate them from the background. You can do some really cool stuff. The issue with using a camera like that in a live setting, the biggest thing is focus. Is being able to nail your focus, especially when you're shooting, when we say wide open, that means everything behind them is really blurry. When you go wide open like that, man, if they barely move, they go in and out of focus. And so that's the hard part about using DSLRs. When it's up close, if you're 6, 10, 15 feet away, you can typically get it to work pretty well. But when you move into a house of worship style setting where you're 50 feet away, 60 feet, sometimes more, it is really, really hard to use those DSLR cameras in a live setting like that. Can it be done? Absolutely. But it requires just a really, really good, confident camera operator that can just be knocking out focus as your subject is moving around the stage or something like that. Your camera operator is, I'm doing this because we use a thing called a follow focus on the front of a camera that allows you to turn this knob, and it keeps things in focus. So the DSLRs are great on that. on the front of image quality, but when you bring them into a live event setting, they just get a little bit more difficult to manage. So then you do want to move to something that's a little bit more camcorder based, and you have things that have interchangeable lenses as far as camcorders. You've got things with built-in lenses. I've got a couple of them laying around in this studio here. And you're absolutely right. As they reach out and they have the capability of, getting that nice head to chest or waist to head, shot, they do typically run a little bit more. The other issue that you run into is lighting. When you start filming or live streaming, you are pumping so much light into that stage. So that little itty bitty sensors, imagine the size of the sensor on an iPhone. Those itty bitty sensors can pick up that light. I'm gonna do something you should never do, but you can see in there, that's that itty bitty sensor right there. This is my son's play camera, so it's all right. He won't notice a little bit of dust on the sensor, but those sensors have to have a ton of light or your image is gonna be dark. So as you move up into the higher end cameras, they have bigger and bigger sensors, or they have multiple sensors. So those are some things to take into consideration. There are ways to do it on the cheap, definitely. And that cost is dropping astronomically as we speak. But those are some of the things that you need to take into consideration, especially with using a DSLR in a live setting versus a camera.
Well, and I think too, guys, and at the heart of that question too, when people come back in, the concern is you want people to feel like it's a worship space. You don't want to be distracting. This is what I learned when we were first stepping into live stream here at Bethlehem, which was a more traditional church than what I came from. Before that, I was doing worship in a movie theater. I could do just about anything, and we get used to it quickly. But in this more traditional setting, 16th century style space, what we did was we took the Mevo camera and I just had a sound, one of our media people walk it to the center of the aisle, stick it in the center of the aisle on a tripod. The footprint of it was so small. It would almost be like this microphone here, that it would quickly disappear for people. And so a couple of things you can do is if you want to honor your budget, now's the time to kind of strike, for lack of a better term. When people are coming back in, do the camera setup that's going to work well and you can get people used to, because you could stick a DSLR camera closer to you, or even stick it in a pew spot, get like a mount, like a tripod mount for the pew, and put your phone or your DSLR, whatever you're going to use there, Mevo camera, and just remind people, hey guys, there's people that haven't been able to come back with us yet. And so we want to make sure they can watch it too. It's amazing how quickly people get used to stuff. Or you can just say, look, we don't want to lose what we've been doing, and we want to make sure if we can be here or you can't be here, you can still be in worship. And so sometimes it's not even a matter of spending more money on a bigger camera. Sometimes it's just a little visioning and some of the same equipment you're using, and you can really move the ball forward a lot on that.
Yeah. I know a lot of places right now that are using an iPhone just on the front pews. They're using their little Gorilla Pod or whatever, and they're wrapping it around the front pew, and they're filming right then and there. So
that's how we started at the point when we started live streaming. It was pretty low budget and low tech, but it worked and it connected people.
Oh, and here's the crazy thing. Here's the crazy thing. You reminded me of this, Trey. We had a $5,000 production camera that we had gotten when we first started, and we were using for most stuff. When we started live streaming, we actually went from the production camera down to an iPhone. And that was giving us a better, easier quality than this expensive camera. So this is not a marketing trick when we say big church media, small budget. You can really, under $1,000, under even 500, put together an amazing system. And some people are upgrading their phones so fast, you could probably get somebody to donate it for free.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is huge. Now, we're getting some great questions coming in here, and a few questions that are kind of tied. We've got two coming from anonymous attendee. Hello, anonymous attendee. And they kind of are linked. I'm going to go with your second one if you're the same person, because it ties into your first question, which is in live streaming from iPhone, is there a way to use a program like a Pro Presenter in order to put words on the screen for those watching from home. So we're kind of moving from equipment to, is there a way to set up some kind of switcher system or something so that somebody could be able to get some of the production switching stuff with some of the lower cost equipment like iPhones and things like that. And then the other question was about, are there any capture cards or anything that you need to use specifically that you would recommend or avoid? And then what kind of computer size are we looking at when we start stepping into things like streaming through UBS and different stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I can jump in on a little bit of that here. Let's look at the capture card. A company called Blackmagic, which, you know, people are starting to hear a little bit more and more about them. They make some just amazing equipment at a fairly decent price point. And a lot of people will say like, oh, Blackmagic, it's a little bit lower cost and stuff like that. We use Blackmagic. We were using it when we were producing TED Talks, like when we produce large scale conferences. Their equipment is phenomenal, and not being paid to say that or anything like that, but it's just what we use. I've used a number of other switchers and things like that. So Blackmagic also makes some capture cards. If you hop on their website, blackmagicdesigns.com, you can see some of these capture cards that you can put into PCs. Mac users, sorry guys, I'm a Mac user and we're out of luck. There are ways to get around it, but it starts costing a lot of money. But check out some of the capture cards that Blackmagic Design uses, or that they produce. You do want to have a fairly robust computer. You're launching a stream out of that computer. You're encoding that stream sometimes out of that computer. There are things that you can do to mitigate some of the stress that's going on that computer by using external encoders. And when I say encoder, it's just taking that video stream and it's getting it ready and packaging it up to send it out to the internet. So you probably do want to have a fairly robust, quad core computer, a decent computer that's got a decent processor on it. It's got some decent RAM in it and stuff like that. One of the big things that you really want to have, you want to have a good upload stream at your location. So if you're launching a 1080 stream, typically what you want to do is take whatever that upload is, whatever is spec'd out for that upload. A 1080 stream, I think, is around 5 or 6 megs up, not down. Down is totally different. We're talking about our upload speed. You want to double it to give yourself a decent buffer. So if you're going to launch a full-blown 1080, 1920 by 1080 high-def stream out of your church, you're looking at probably needing around 12 megs up. So that's also something that is really, really important, is making sure that you've got the connectivity to do that.
But you need to do a 1080. Like, I think most people are 720?
720, yeah, predominantly because Facebook right now is broadcasting in 720. So you can send up this beautiful stream and some of these platforms are going to grab it and bring it down to 720. Now, are you going to notice a huge difference between 1080 and 720? Probably not, but that is something to think about.
Yeah, so if you want to save some money, go 720.
Yeah, if you want to save a little bit of money and stuff like that, you can go 720, but you still really think about that upload speed. And then spinning it back around a little bit, the other portion, let me see if I can find the rest of his question. Sorry, the other portion of his question was, do you guys see it there?
Yeah, I'll grab that. The other portion of the question had to do with what would be the base level CPU, Haswell era or newer?
Ooh, I'd have to.
I don't even know what that. I don't even know what that means. So,
yeah.
And I will let you guys know, we're going to shoot out a PDF link list that's got a lot of the links, but there's some other good stuff coming in here. Like
the other thing was with iPhone and getting Pro Presenter to work with it through OSB.
Yeah. So there are a couple different things that you can do. There's some software-based programs that you can bring it in and kind of manipulate your iPhone to almost be a source coming into a web-based or a software-based switcher. When we say switcher, what a switcher is it does just what it sounds like. It switches between sources. So this is the holy grail right now, the Blackmagic Atom Mini Pro. This is what everybody's trying to grab right now because it's basically the cheapest way that you can get into switching. So on this, you'll see 4 inputs in the back. That means I can bring 4 cameras in and switch between those 4 cameras. I can bring a computer running ProPresenter in and switch that into my live stream. So the easiest way to bring in some sort of external video or presentation software or something like that is to actually use a switcher. The one that I showed you here, this is a hardware-based switcher. You can also use something like, let's see, like Wirecast, or even I think OBS, Open Broadcast, has some switching capabilities built into it. So you can do things like that, more of a software-based switcher as well, to get that, to do that same thing, switch between those inputs. That's all a switcher does, is it moves between those inputs. When you move to a software-based switcher, remember that you're also going to be paying for adapters. You're going to have to pay for adapters to get your phone in there as one of those sources. You're going to pay for adapters to bring your DSLR camera or something like that. You're going to pay for adapters to bring those into your computer and into that software-based switcher. So take that into consideration.
Yeah, one thing with the new ProPresenter, if you update, and I haven't had a chance to fully explore it yet, but it does integrate with live streaming platforms and stuff. And so you've got the same change. You can basically have a separate screen for your live stream, and it will put the words on top of that. And so you're only using one switcher, because there was a time when you had to have 2 ProPresenter machines running, but now it's integrated. Now that's a cost. That's going to put you over the $1,000 mark.
I will tell you too, we just did that as a church. We just did upgrade. If you have ProPresenter, it's cheaper too. It's not a full buy. So if you have an existing ProPresenter, it's just a smaller upgrade fee, which is good. But we did that, and it made doing that. We've been trying to do the overlay with words for years, and just didn't have some of the stuff. And once we did that update with ProPresenter, it was ready in a weekend. And then we were even able to, my worship guy was able to figure out how to use the Apple TV as kind of like the source, so that he could do it through there. So it's definitely looking at something like a ProPresenter and making sure you have the right level would be a good way to do it. And I think now would be the time to ask your church, because people see the value in that everybody's at home, everybody's streaming, everybody's tired of having to watch just words or just people, and they would love to see the two things together. And so now would be the time to I would even encourage you guys, if you can't hit it in the church budget, reach out to a few people in the church that you think would have a lot of buy-in with it, and just ask. Because the worst thing they could say is no. So that's another kind of trick that I've used in that. Man, we've got a lot of questions streaming in here. One was, what was the name of the microphone shown for the iPhone, Trey, again?
It is the Movo VXR10.
And will that work on an Android? Is most of the stuff we're talking about Android or iOS? To kind of make it easier.
This works with anything that has a 3.5 millimeter jack, which the iPhone technically doesn't, but there's an adapter for it. But yeah, anything that you can input a 3.5 millimeter mic on.
Awesome. And then this has been I've seen this on an issue a couple times. Somebody asked, there's a recommendation, Tanner, if you could check that out in the Q&A. Anonymous attendee asked about a Elgato Camlink 4K when they finally have them back in stock. Would you recommend that? We'll put that in the Q&A. And then I think this is a great question for everybody. What about connecting the soundboard to the live stream? Like Trey, this is kind of your wheelhouse. What's the easiest way to do that? Because I've seen people have tons of trouble with it.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your setup. There are lots, it depends on what board you have. It depends on what you're using to stream. The kind of the best all around way is to use one of your auxiliary sends, and you have to have someone who is mixing in noise canceling headphones or mixing in another room. It's a lot easier if you've got a digital board that you can control with an iPad, that you can go to another room or something like that. But yeah, dedicate one of your aux sends to an output, and you'll use whatever connector. I mean, it just really depends on your equipment. That's kind of that is the difficult thing, is you've got what you've got and you got to make it work. And so, that's where you ask Professor Google, and chances are sometimes somebody else has tried to do it before you with this. And, and then you have to discern whether that person knows what they're talking about or whether they're a complete idiot. But that's typically how I figure things out on that. But, some boards, they have USB sends, and it really depends on what gear you're looking at. One thing that I would recommend is to also have a room mic, some sort of a small diaphragm condenser mic. Preferably if you can get two of them and do them in what's called an XY pattern. I know that I'm talking techie, but just Google it. But any kind of a condenser mic for the room that's pointed back, but capture some of that room sound. It will make your stream sound, your audio sound more realistic and live, and it will cover up some of the issues and mistakes that you make in mixing.
Here's a quick little tip also. This is something that I ran into fairly recently, specifically with these little switchers here. So a lot of times you'll plug your board in, and there will be a little bit of an audio lag. And Trey, you may be able to, this is probably something I need to chat with you about. Is there a way to lag or put in a couple seconds or a couple milliseconds of lag on an audio board to match it up with the video for your live stream?
I haven't come into that issue, so I don't know right offhand.
Okay.
But yeah, we can talk about that later, and we'll ask Professor Google.
Yeah. One of the just cheesy little workarounds that I did was I brought the audio feed out of the auxes on the board. I ran it into the XLR inputs, the mic inputs on my camera, on the side of my camera, and I slammed that audio together with the video in the camera, and then I sent it out to my switcher, and it fixed that lag. But yeah, I was wondering if there was a way to do that without having to bring it in.
Yeah, well, they're coming at different times. The audio is going to be quicker than the video.
Yeah,
because the video takes longer to process. And so,
Joel Vano here on our panel just said OBS lets you put in a lag time for audio. So if you're using OBS,
thank you, Joel.
You can do that. Joel, thank you. You're the man. So yeah, I think that's incredible. I'm going to jump down one question, then we'll jump back up to a more technical question. Jumping down one question from an anonymous attendee. If we don't have any musicians, what resources would you recommend for good quality hymns, worship songs for a live stream in-person gatherings?
It's all you, Trey.
No musicians at all?
Yeah, I think, base level.
Yeah, I would start recruiting a musician first. Because when you get into recorded music, you get into different copyright issues that you have to navigate beyond your CCLI license, your CCLI performance license. But I mean, plenty of churches that sing a cappella.
Mm-hmm.
You have what you have, and so, I mean, you could definitely look for some tracks. I mean, anything like, Amazon or iTunes is going to have some of those resources for you. If you're talking about like split tracks where you've got a music bed and then people are singing over it, there are a lot of those. I typically, if I ever have to use those, I'll get them from Amazon. Also, praisecharts.com might have some of those, but I'm not sure if they really do that. They're more into the chart side. But yeah, I've gotten performance tracks from Amazon before for people that want to perform, sing at funerals and stuff like that. So Amazon.
Yeah, and then also check out places like Worship House Media and Igniter. They have kind of worship like lyric track kind of things.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Check some of that out. I don't think it's going to be your more traditional hymns, but it'll be something, which is probably good. But yeah, that's a really great question. So let's dive back into the technical stuff, because I got my technical gurus here. Christopher Hazard asks, using Canon Vixia HF to stream OBS to YouTube Live, started by picking up audio using internal camera speakers. Our PA is antiquated, so I tried to add a Behringer U-Phoria USB audio interface. I cannot for the life of me get rid of the hum, nor figure out a way to balance audio. I suspect I need noise canceling headphones. Any intro to sound for dummies tutorials you would suggest?
Okay, sometimes USB audio interfaces get a hum. It has to do with just the patterns of electricity. It's 60 cycle hum. Like for my interface, sometimes I get a little hum, a little buzz thing when I have the power adapter plugged in. So there's interference from power sources and stuff like that. I'm going to be honest, Behringer is probably my last choice for audio interfaces. Yeah, I would go with something like a Focusrite or a PreSonus. I've always been happy with PreSonus gear, and their customer service is phenomenal. But there are a lot of options, but Behringer is Behringer is tempting on things because they make cheap stuff, but they a lot of different products. Someone like PreSonus or Focusrite, they focus on audio interfaces and recording boards and live sound boards, and so they really put the R&D into creating a product that does what it's supposed to. But yeah, Behringer is kind of my last choice on things.
No, that's helpful. Is there just a basic, I'm trying to get good audio for my live stream? Is there just a really basic setup you would suggest to kind of ensure you're going to get some decent audio without catching some of that hum?
The microphone is going to be your cheapest, easiest way. An external microphone. Don't use the microphone on your camera. They always stink. They're always bad. So that will get the live room sound. It will work. And as far as, if you're running your audio, if you're using a digital, like a software based switcher, and you need to get your audio into your computer, I would recommend a PreSonus Audio Box or a Focusrite Scarlett. And also another thing, there is a great resource at Sweetwater.com. If you're not, if you don't have a sales rep, talk to Jason Coons there. He's the best. I've been working with him for 12, 15 years. I mean, he's amazing. He knows his stuff. And if you ask him a question, he's really patient with you, and he knows his gear, and he will set you on the right path and tell you. He will not hesitate to tell you to buy something cheaper if it's what you need better. And tell him Trey sent you.
Yeah.
But
he's good. We've done work with him. He's really good. So, yeah, that's awesome. So a quick question, and Trey, this might be in your arena. David Lampman asks, what about iWorship purchases? Can they be used on live streaming?
iWorship. I am not familiar with iWorship.
I think for some of that, so I'll give you guys kind of a quick hint on some of that stuff. In fact, when we set up the live stream, we kind of do it intentionally to kind of show you some of the stuff you can do. So like you probably noticed, we had a countdown video as we were starting this. I got that off Igniter. Igniter and Worship House, oftentimes they'll have a little checkbox if you order a video, or if you have a subscription that says live stream license, you click that, and it gives you the live stream license to be able to live stream out. So that's one thing. Look for that whenever you're purchasing something. They'll usually have a description. If you're not sure, you can always go into their help box too. That's another great way to find out if something is available for you to use on live stream. And then a little trick, and use St. Google to find the actual words for it. But whenever you're doing your church broadcast live streams, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, but especially YouTube, there's a little description that you're going to want to put in the description box that says, this is for educational purposes only, or it's for worship purposes only. And what that does is it helps YouTube's algorithm not be as harsh with the copyright stuff. So it's almost like this extra layer that you can put in that will ensure your live stream kind of moves forward. And then, I would say if you're not sure, err on the side of not putting it in. And the reason I would say that is you don't just want to think about the immediate live streaming. You want to think about somebody being able to share that live stream out, and then them being able to share it with their friends, or somebody coming back and being able to access the message that you did on video, because that's really the powerful part about doing YouTube and doing video and stuff like that. And the reason we thought it was so important to do something like this is because it has the ability to take something that was a one-time event and allow it to continue on and continue to impact lives. And so you just want to make sure that however you're doing it, just err on the side of doing what you can do, and post that in there, because you don't want it to get pulled down and then somebody missed the message. That's always the worst part. Man, you guys ask some amazing questions here. Monty Meyer says, just a note, the Shure MV88 mic is awesome for distance. It's a little spendy at $149.99 through Amazon, but I love it. So thank you for that encouragement. By the way, we have no sponsors here, so if you're worried about that.
I'll second that little Shure microphone. I was in Israel a couple months ago, and we were filming with our iPhones, and I plugged that into the bottom of it. And I was blown away by that little mic and the capabilities of it. The only gripe that I've got on that mic, man, it pops out of that lightning adapter so quick. But luckily the mic is built like a tank. And so I was walking around, and constantly this thing would just go flying out of my lightning adapter, and I'd go and pick it up and plug it back in. So I finally got to where I used a little bit of gaff tape to just put on the sides of it, and like gaff tape this microphone or this mic into my phone. But man, I was blown away by that little tiny microphone. And again, the build quality on that sucker is amazing because I put it through its paces.
Man, well, guys, this has been awesome. I really appreciate, number one, you guys sharing your time and sharing your setups and some of the tips and tricks you guys have used. I want to let you guys know you can connect with Trey and Tanner. We're going to have their emails sent out to you guys in the PDF follow up with this. If you're signing up on demand, it'll be in the email link as well if you're watching on demand, but we'll send you a follow-up email because I know a webinar like this is always link heavy. So check that out. We'll also, Susan will find, she's our communications coordinator. She's the one that, I mean, we should double her salary after this webinar. She's been having to post so many links in there for you guys. But she will also share that YouTube description on that as well. So you've got that you can post in. I know you can find it on Google as well, Aaron. So that's a great question. We'll share that out with you. And I also want to let you know, we're going to add some stuff to help you continue to figure out video. Tanner is putting together a whole training for the Kairos Network that will walk you through, and I've seen the first video. It's amazing, by the way. But it will walk you through how to do a multi-camera kind of setup, how to use the switcher that he was showing you, basically how you can put together that media suite for your church for under $1,000, which is incredible, probably even cheaper than that. But I figure overpromise, underpromise, overdeliver kind of thing. And so definitely check that out. And also we've got more webinars coming up in 2 weeks. I'm super excited about this. We're going to be talking about how to prepare for coming back in person. And I am really excited because we have Todd Bolsinger. He's the author of Canoeing the Mountains, is going to be on with us. Mac Lake, who's the founder of the Multiply Group and has written books, Lead Leaders and Multiplication Effect. And David Putman, who you've probably seen on some other webinars here. David is lead navigator for Oxano, founder of Planting the Gospel, and co-author of Breaking the Missional Code. And so these guys are going to help us think through how do we navigate this new season of church. So if you get a chance, you can register. We've got that link popped in the chat. Register for that webinar. It's going to be incredible. And as soon as our training is done, we're going to shoot that out to you as well. So guys, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this panel, for being able to share your wisdom and your expertise. Thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it was great to be here.
And if you guys need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. So excited that we got to hang out with you today and looking forward to hanging out with you again right here on our Life of a Church Planter webinar series. To catch this or other webinars, go to www.lifeofachurchplanter.com/webinars. That's www.lifeofachurchplanter.com/webinars. And we will see you guys next time.